Hello and welcome to Sunset Television. I am Vishal Dahiya and you're watching our special election series, Battleground 2021, which gets a detailed analysis of election news and views from the poll-bound states. Over the next half an hour, we'll bring you the detailed report of the parties, candidates and the political scenario on the ground in the state of Kerala. And we'll also be joined by senior journalists and political analysts to try and decode the situation which is right now there in Kerala. Now, Kerala Assembly elections for 140 seats are due in less than a month to elect 140 MLAs to the 15th Legislative Assembly. Now, the election will be conducted on 6th of April, and counting of votes will happen on 2nd of May. The tenure of the members of 14th Legislative Assembly in the state will come to an end on 1st of June 2021. Let's now take an overview of the political situation in Kerala as to how the major parties fared last time in the state and how they are positioned this time around. Now, the Kerala Legislative Assembly comprises of 140 constituencies. The centrist UDF and leftist LDF are the two main coalitions in the state, with power alternating between the two every 5 years. In 2006 Assembly elections, the CPIM-led Left Democratic Front beat the incumbent Congress-led United Democratic Front by a margin of 56 seats. The 2011 Assembly election, whose results were released on 13th of May 2011, proved to be one of the closest ones in Kerala's history, with the United Democratic Front beating the Left Democratic Front by a margin of just 4 seats. Now, the LDF rode to power in the 2016 Assembly elections, winning 91 of 140 seats. The UDF, which governed the state between 2011 and 2016 under the leadership of Oman Chandi, fared badly, winning just 47 seats. In 2019 Lok Sabha elections, the Congress-led UDF has raced to the finish line, winning 19 of the 20 seats in Kerala. Now, going into political battles in the state of Kerala, the Left Front's fortunes depend on its alliance partners as it looks to retain power in the southern state and revive its political relevance. The United Democratic Front, that is UDF, is an alliance of central and center-left political parties in the state led by the Congress. Now, the Left Democratic Front is a coalition of left-wing political parties led by the Communist Party of India. It is one of the two major political coalitions in Kerala. LDF is currently in the power, as I was pointing out earlier, and the coalition consists of CPIM, CPI, and other smaller parties as well. Now, the National Democratic Alliance, NDA, led by Bharatiya Janata Party, is a coalition of right-wing political parties in the state. This coalition consists of BJP, BDJS, and some smaller regional parties as well. Will Kerala, which is known to alternate between LDF and UDF, spring a surprise? Will BJP strengthen its position? In the next half an hour, we'll take a look at all these points, the main players, the ACUs, and trends as well. So let me first introduce our two guests to you, beginning with Mr. Shekhar Ayya, senior journalist who is joining us from Delhi. We also have with us Mr. T.G. Mohandas, political analyst, joining us from the ground in Kerala. Welcome, both of you gentlemen, to Sunset Television. Let me begin with you, Mr. Mohandas, and let's start by understanding what is the ground situation. How are these three political fronts, aligned there on the ground, their strategies, the LDF, the UDF, and the NDA led by BJP?
Yeah, the history of Kerala since 1967 or so is that the state was going to communist-led LDF and Congress-led UDF alternatively every 5 years. Now, as such, if we go by that rule, UDF, Congress-led UDF has to come to power this time, because LDF is, they have finished their 5 years. Now, as used to happen earlier, UDF, Congress-led UDF, as on date, have some edge over LDF. Not a complete capture of the state, but they have tremendously picked up because of the inefficiencies, smuggling, backdoor appointments, and lot of commission कट या कमीशन वगैरह बोलते हैं, वो सब जो बाहर जो आया है, उसके वजह से LDF has gone back and UDF has slightly come to the front. But for the past at least 10 years, what is happening in Kerala is slowly a Hindu vote has slowly consolidated, and that has really troubled all political parties. Now, generally, as is perceived throughout India, the Hindu vote should go to BJP. But in Kerala, during last Lok Sabha election, the Hindu vote surprisingly went to Congress. That was because of Sabarimala issue. That was because BJP could not present themselves as a viable alternative in Kerala. And number two, because Hindus are almost a minority in Kerala. I am telling you this despite the census figures of 2011, which shows that Hindu population is around 52% or so. But practically at the ground level, now 9 years are over. So Hindus are generally a minority, and a majority of them are voters of CPM. That is the situation in Kerala. Now, what is happening is the Hindu vote base of CPM is slowly getting deteriorated, or rather, it is being shifted to BJP.
Okay.
Therefore, this time my general prediction will be Congress-led UDF will come to power with a slender margin, with BJP getting at least 10 to 12 seats.
Okay.
This is what, as of now, the ground level. But all candidates, everything are to be declared now. So the picture may change tomorrow or day after tomorrow again.
Okay. Okay, that seemingly is, the summary of situation on the ground out there, and all of us know, as Mr. Mohandas is also pointing out, that it has been the power has been alternatively changing hands in the state of Kerala. Let's try and bring in Mr. Shekhar Iyer here as well. Mr. Iyer, from your point of view, how are the situation is on the ground there? How is specifically both these major alliances, the UDF and LDF, are placed in terms of this particular assembly election? And let's not forget the third player there, the NDA as well, led by BJP.
Vishalji, it's a very interesting scenario that is emerging in Kerala. See, when the Lok Sabha elections took place, we saw the UDF, completely sweeping the elections, but for one seat, the 20 Lok Sabha seats, as your graphic showed, 19 went to UDF. Now, after that, in the last, between the Lok Sabha elections and now the present assembly elections that is coming, there was the local government, self-governing bodies election, that is your corporations, municipal corporations, municipalities, that election took place. There we saw a very, very interesting, rather a contrasting picture where the CPM and their affiliated parties managed to do very well. And the Congress somehow could not retain its position. Mm-hmm. And that came as a shock to UDF, because the conclusion was, as Mr. Mohandas was pointed out, that the cycle of once LDF, then next time UDF, that cycle would continue. But this, jolt that was given by the local elections, was a kind of a thing I would say was an eye opener to the state of, the Congress, particularly in Kerala. Despite doing well in Lok Sabha election, thanks to Sabarimala issue and other things. Now, since then, what has happened is, as Mohandas was pointing out, all these gold scam, other scams, all these things that has come, they have actually dented the image of Pinarayi Vijayan, the chief minister. But Pinarayi Vijayan is himself a great strategist. And what we have seen, he has managed to get the party to back his leadership. And on the basis of what his government has done for the poor, the way it managed the floods and other social welfare schemes that they have implemented, on that basis, what we have seen, yesterday, particularly when the list of 83 candidates came, they have adopted a policy largely, going by what Pinarayi Vijayan wanted. which is, to go for a crop of new leaders. They have dropped almost 33 MLAs and 5 ministers, including seniors like the finance minister, Thomas Isaac. And after that, we are seeing that they have also decided to go for what is called, backing independence, particularly in a district like Malappuram, because where, CPM has always felt that they don't have enough Muslim leaders to challenge the domination of IUML, particularly in North Kerala districts. And the other thing they have done is they have brought in a lot of women candidates, and they are also trying to see to accommodate some UDF rebels. And in northern Kerala, what they are doing is they are supporting independents. They are backing a lot of, at least 9 independents are now backed by CM. But I
Okay.
think the very move to give so many young faces itself is a bold decision, because throughout Kerala we are seeing within CPM there are protests happening, posters are being put up against the decision to give tickets to new people, and but they have decided to take the challenge, knowing that the situation is so challenging. They have gone in for new faces in the hope of bringing down the anti-incumbency factors, which is affecting Pinarayi Vijayan's last 5 years rule. Vishal.
Okay. Okay. What about the situation of the NDA alliance there, specifically the BJP as well? Because there are some interesting new faces joining the fold there. For example, the Metro Men, they are being part of becoming part of the BJP. How do you think, Mr. Iyer, it will add to the fortunes, electoral fortunes of the BJP in the state of Kerala?
You see, BJP has been plowing, I would say, a lonely furrow for a long time. It has had an organizational structure there, and there is a lot of activity of the RSS network there. But despite that, they have been managing because of the demography that Mr. Mohandas explained. Because Christians and Muslims, who they form a big voting community, and they have been supporting so far the Congress, because Congress has the benefit of the Christian support, and it has the benefit of Muslim support, which comes via IUML, which is the second largest partner in the UDF. Now, but what has happened is Sabarimala issue was a turning point, where we saw CPM, which traditionally has been depending on the Muslim votes, made a huge blunder by trying to implement the Supreme Court judgment to allow women, and by encouraging some women activists who are non-believers to enter there, and that upset the believers, and therefore that punishment they got, I would say punishment within quote unquote, in the Lok Sabha elections. But other thing that is happening now is BJP is no more seen as untouchable. We are seeing, with the entry of leaders like Sridharan. Sridharan is a person highly respected, not just in Kerala, but all over the country. He's a man seen as building infrastructure. He has joined the BJP. Similarly, there are a number of other people who are from different walks of life who are willing to, contest under BJP. That is giving a change. And I mentioned about the civic elections, the local civic election. BJP, which had 15.5% vote in the Lok Sabha elections, retained the same strength in the local government election, which means BJP strength has not eroded, perhaps may have grown. But unlike Congress, which did so well in the Lok Sabha elections and did very badly in the local self-governing body elections. Now, this scenario shows for the BJP, they are looking at Kerala in terms, they have worked hard for a long time, and they are hoping this time, whatever comes their way, it will be more than, definitely more than one seat, I would say, at the very conservative level, because every time it has been only O. Rajagopal, who is the tallest and the oldest BJP leader in Kerala, who has been, getting elected, that too from Thiruvananthapuram. But now the scenario is with more and more people coming forward to contest under, BJP, and also there is also a churning among the Christian community, particularly within the Christian community, when they are seeing the state of the Congress, and they feel that they should no longer be tied down by the Congress. And some sections of the Christian community are looking at BJP also as an alternative. And
Okay.
I would say that even some sections of Muslim community too, who do not want to be bound by this IUML, or with the allegations coming out, which are even CPM leaders are saying that some IUML leaders are in touch with groups like SDPI, and which are again then connected to some hardliner organization like Jamaat Islami. So there is a lot of churning among these very communities who feel that at least in Kerala, there has to be an alternative beyond LDF and UDF. So you can see some surprises in some constituencies, as I
Okay.
feel today.
Okay, that's quite an interesting and important social dynamics, changing dynamics, which is happening out there in the state of Kerala, as Mr. Shekhar is pointing out, and we might see some interesting twist in this particular state in this particular electoral battle as well. Let's now focus on the ACUs, which concern the people. Ultimately, the ACUs on the basis of which all political parties, all candidates fight their elections. Mr. Mohandas, I'd like to bring you in here. And as you're pointing out earlier, we can see that all political parties have made a lot of promises. But the central theme, do you agree that it remains the issue of corruption and the issue of development?
See, the main issue in this election is yet to come out. That is my reading. There are certain issues which the political parties are not revealing. They are keeping it close to their chest so that they can make an impact just before election. So the real issue is yet to come. Now, as on date, development also is an issue. But the corruption, not only corruption, you see, it is pure smuggling and reverse all. Can you imagine a chief minister colluding with certain people who are taking dollars to outside countries for some dirty purpose? And that lady is blurting it out, and it comes to the Kerala High Court. And the chief minister is in a pickle situation. He is at the mercy of Customs and Enforcement Directorate. The moment they sent a notice to him to appear before them, it will be a hell of a lot of problem for him to face that. You cannot go on defending yourself, saying that the central agencies are playing politics. Lower court will not play politics. Okay, lower court plays politics. High court will not play politics. Throughout, you cannot say that every agency, everybody, the whole world is conspiring against me, and because I am an efficient chief minister, etc., that will not stand water. That is where Pandey is facing difficulty. And BJP is also, I think they made a miscalculation. They expected elections in the first week of May. So their preparations were a bit slow. But suddenly, Election Commission announced that election is on April 6th. That means 1 month ahead of BJP's calculation. This, I don't have information from BJP, but from unconfirmed sources, I know BJP planned it for May, and the elections are in April. So now BJP is in a hurry in their preparation. Congress, as usual, historically, they used to announce their candidates after a lot of infighting. They will announce it at the 11th hour, and still they are able to get away with that. Only thing, this time what happened was, the first time BJP has made inroad into Christian community, a major section of a major church of Christian community, that is Jacobite Church. They have come out openly in support of BJP. अभी तक तो डरा रहे थे, अरे भाई अल्पसंख्यक को खा जाएंगे, बीजेपी खा जाएंगे वगैरह, लेकिन उनको अब पता चला कि ये कोई कुछ खाने वाले नहीं है. So let us align with BJP. It is good for them because they have some other target down there, want to get some other law passed by central government, something like that. They met Modi, their anti-group met Modi. Anyway, BJP has successfully created fissures in Christian community that is going to the advantage of BJP.
Okay, definitely. It is ultimately for the people to go ahead and decide as to which way they want to go, who they want to vote for, and that seemingly will very much depend upon the kind of issues which are there being put forward by the political parties and their candidates. Mr. Iyer, your point of view on the dominant issues in this election in the state of Kerala?
Well, I think it is about, as Mohandaji was mentioning, corruption definitely is an issue. I think the Pinarayi Vijayan cannot wish away that, because particularly the gold smuggling, which shocked the entire country, showed involvement of people who were operating from the Chief Minister's office. Now, as to whether who is involved, who is not involved, it will come in the course of investigation and the trial will happen. But the fact that, the people who have been arrested had access to the Chief Minister's office is not a small matter. And I think both the party and the Chief Minister himself has been on the defensive. Of course, the Chief Minister has taken the stand that, look, I handed it over to the Center for Investigation. I wanted an impartial investigation. But the facts that are coming out, his own secretary, an IAS officer, had dealings or contacts with the people. I think that's a very serious matter. That is one. Apart from that, we have also seen other cases of irregularities in terms of recruitments, in terms of other deals, contract. Just now, we saw one particular project. They completely cancelled it when they discovered it. It had been awarded to an American firm. So, see, there are issues like this. And of course, what the CPM is hoping is that, well, within the Congress, we should have put up a good fight. You see, the fact that Rahul Gandhi shifted to Wayanad, and that should have, which is said to have been credited for giving that boost to the Congress in the 2019 elections. But since then, what we are seeing today is it is heavily faction ridden, because the whole thrust of Congress approach last 5 years was on the shoulders of, Ramesh Chanitala, who was the leader of the opposition. But when they realized that, post the local self-governing bodies election, when, Ramesh Chanitala could not ensure Congress victory, even in Chanitala, his home ground, they decided to create a campaign committee and brought back Women Chandy. Because bringing back Women Chandy means that you keep the Christian vote bank happy, so they brought back Women Chandy. So that has led to a factional situation. And recent announcement by PC Chaco, he is a very senior Congress leader, always considered very close to the Congress establishment. He has come out saying, look, the manner in which Congress is deciding the tickets, it's between two groups, Women Chandy group and Ramesh Chanitala group. Earlier it used to be said the one was Karunakaran group and A.K. Antony group. But the tussle never came out so open as it has come out today. So a weakened Congress, in a way, is giving some comfort to the CPM. But definitely there are a lot of otherwise they would not have dropped 5 ministers and 33 MLAs. And the other thing which is coming is, we are seeing in this time the CPM distribution of tickets. There are cases where the husband minister has been denied ticket, but his wife has got ticket. In some other places, you are finding some relation or the other has been given ticket. So that is also creating some issues. So the question, and we talked about Pinarayi Vijayan's, the office facing corruption issues. Now, what about the CPM state secretary, Kodari Balakrishnan? He had to resign because his son was arrested on, some drug smuggling charges. And he was forced to resign as state secretary. He was a very powerful leader. So today a situation has come where in Kerala, even the CPM, which used to claim that, their leaders are more clean than the UDF leaders, today that plank is not easily available for the CPM in the part of the campaign. Well, the other issue will be, of course, in terms of the delivery mechanism of some of the social schemes. But at the same time, with Prime Minister, own appeal in Kerala, and BJP is depending largely on the Prime Minister to give that kind of turbo effect for its campaign, we are going to see a very, very interesting battle, Vishal.
Okay. So there it is. Thank you so much, Mr. Shekhar Iyer, as well as Mr. Mohan Das, for sharing those insights. As our panelists were pointing out, there seems to be a very interesting situation developing down south in the state of Kerala, while the alternating, power balance between the UDF and LDF has been the norm so far. But this time around, seemingly the infighting or the groupism alleged by some of the Congress leaders within the Congress party does not seem to be doing so good for the UDF. The LDF seemingly might find it difficult to retain hold on the power as well because of the anti-incumbency factor out there. And on the other hand, the NDA led by BJP is trying to make inroads. So let's wait and watch as to what exactly the voters of Kerala have in mind and which way the balance of power will swing this time around. We'll get to know on 2nd of May. But till then, we'll keep on bringing you all the details and updates on these assembly elections, not only in Kerala, but in other 3 states and the Union Territory of Puducherry as well. Stay tuned to Sunset Television. Thank you.